If anything, I can pray that we get Goku and Vegeta fusing so that we can finally see a canon Gogeta along with a canon Gogeta and Broly match. I've wanted one since we saw that one intro in Budokai Tenkaichi 3. For the love of God, please show us this match!
And now for the live reaction of Trevor after the movie. So as you could tell from my gross face, I had the pleasure of watching the new Dragon Ball movie, which I'll just call the Broly film to keep it simple. I had a lot of fun watching it. The audience in the theater liked it, but they were never too loud. Not like those audiences that scream at every detail in a Marvel movie. Now, to keep things simple, I'm going to divide this into two parts. The first will be a brief no-spoiler review, and then I'll just dive straight into spoilers. So for non-spoilers, I definitely recommend this movie. You will most likely find a few flaws in it, as it's not perfect, but for me at least, it doesn't hurt the overall flow of the movie that much. I don't have a number score I can give it, since these ratings are severely subjective depending on the person, but for me, I will say that in this current age of Dragon Ball films, I think this was better than Resurrection F and close to Battle of Gods. Not on the same level, but damn close. And that's not an insult, that's the best compliment I can give this movie. So if you can, go watch it while it's in theaters, or when the time comes, buy a copy or download it. This was definitely a movie made for the fans, with subtle callbacks to the original Dragon Ball, and a refreshing animated story. Also, by the time you watch this movie, you might get the urge to drop the original Broly trilogy in the trash, but again, that's just me. So I will be diving into spoilers from here on out. Last warning, 3, 2, 1, alright, let's get started. Now, I'm not going into specific details or doing a play-by-play for this. I want to focus on a more general sense of a review, because if I go into every detail this movie offers, I'll be here for hours, and I think none of us want that. So instead, I'll go over what I liked in this movie and then the negatives. It'll be a quick breakdown of the film that will sum up how I felt watching it, because again, otherwise this video would be 6 hours long. That being said, this movie is a lot of fun and really interesting story-wise. We got the canonical version of the Saiyan past, which I was surprised at, mainly because it felt so natural. Practically every Saiyan story is woven into the first act of this movie. Broly, Bardock, Vegeta, Raditz, even Tarbo, freaking Tarbo was mentioned in this movie. From there we get a grown-up Broly, who is a trillion times better than the original. I will stand by that forever. Broly in this movie is sympathetic, has a nice parallel to Goku in his naive sense, powerful, doesn't have a pathetic backstory and instead has a touching flashback, but also has a complexing relationship with his father. You see, Paragus is the only man Broly has ever known, but Paragus constantly treats his son like a mere sword, something to sharpen and wield so that he could smite the bloodline of Vegeta. Broly realizes his existence as a one-sided enslavement, but Paragus is also his father, and as his only link to humanity, has a constant urge to obey him. The best analogy I can come up with is that Paragus is to Broly as what Frollo was to Quasimodo in Hunchback of Notre Dame. A misunderstood monster that a selfish man hoped to control for his own selfish desires. Speaking of monsters, Freeza was an absolute joy. In all honesty, he doesn't do much in this movie. In fact, aside from the flashback, the Freeza we knew and grew up with doesn't do jack shit. He admits it too. He's the puppet master in the background, but when Goku tricks Broly into making eye contact with Freeza, the latter is turned into a beautiful punching bag. FYI, the scenes where Freeza pretended to care about Paragus after killing him and being pummeled made the audience laugh in sheer ecstasy, and I'll admit, I did too. Savior of the Universe 2! Well, how did I put it again last July? Freeza realizes he made another mistake, so he tries to kill Broly, gets pummeled worse than that one time with Toppo. Yeah, that's it. Oh, and before I forget, the plot of this movie is that Freeza wants the Dragon Balls again, but when he discovers Broly, he figures that if he throws him at Goku and Vegeta, they'll wipe each other out. But why does Freeza want the Dragon Balls? I won't dare say. I know that there are some people that haven't watched this movie and are watching this spoiler-filled part instead, but trust me when I say that I don't want to spoil Frieza's reasoning for the Dragon Balls. The only hint is that if you watch the original series and remember a certain character's desire, it's utterly glorious. Also, the film in general has subtle callbacks to the original shows. Goku biting Broly's hand, Bardock's last stand, etc. And then there is the action. Sweet, buttery Jesus, the action. It's a mix of the original Broly fight, but with modern animation, the same fast-paced sky battles from Battle of Gods, and amazing choreography from Resurrection F rolled into one. It is a highlight, and for me, is definitely deserving of being called one of the better fights of the whole series. Not just for the animation, but for what it means to Broly. In the movie, Broly has never really fought against anyone before, for good reason. So when Frieza throws him at Goku and Vegeta, all of the latent power in Broly, as well as the Saiyan trait to adapt to power in battle and defeat, come at you full force. The implication is that this slave is fighting for someone else's sake, and his opponents are fully prepared to kill him since to them he's just another villain. Never thought I'd see the whole movie villain perspective get flipped on us like that. So seeing Broly adapt to his Saiyan destiny was interesting, and I wish we got to see that more, but we'll get to that later. However, talking about Broly's power itself, there's a refreshing take on how Broly gets so muscular but stays human. It turns out that he can use the power of the Great Ape transformation, which is a massive power multiplier, but doesn't change in physical size, allowing him to keep his speed and energy at overwhelming physical levels. It also shows why Broly in that buffed up base form can keep up with the Super Saiyan God transformation. Oh! Speaking of which, if you guys saw just a few days ago, I released a video explaining my issue with Super Saiyan Blue. Long story short, that form is overexposed and I wanted to see more of Super Saiyan God. So imagine my surprise and joy when Super Saiyan God came back and got the respect it freaking deserved. It wasn't a power measuring stick or needless fan service, but rather a real transformation that uses unique abilities and proves why Goku and Vegeta are in a state of divine beings. And even when Goku uses Super Saiyan Blue, it's used with impact. Literally, my largest issue with Blue was resolved in this movie. It only used this transformation when necessary, and they made the build-up to Goku transforming fantastic, complete with Ultra Instinct foreshadowing, but this movie didn't have to resort to that form. I respect the movie a lot for not taking that predictable route. Goku turning blue was like watching the first Super Saiyan transformation all over again. Also, Gogeta. Like with Freeza, I dare not say anything, but if you saw what I saw, yeah, that was great. To finally see a canon Gogeta on a movie theater screen is a feeling that's not going away anytime soon. I had a fear that Gogeta was going to be a 2-minute appearance, but I am so happy to be wrong. And finally, the ending. Broly is now going to be a good guy and a friend/training partner to Goku. That is mind-blowing. Not since Battle of Gods am I happy to see an ending like this, something that opens the road to new adventures in the Dragon Ball series. I cannot wait to see what happens next time. Now before I wrap up with my positives, let's talk about the voice cast, who I adore, plain and simple. Hearing Sean and Chris on the big screen again, awesome. The new actors for Dragon Ball, fantastic. And of course, the motherfucking Vic is back as Broly. Seriously though, I hope his paycheck has 4 bottles of water come with it because he deserves it after all the screaming he had to do for this movie. But best of all, Christopher Ayers is back as Freeza. I know that you've gone through some difficulties these past few years, Chris, but I cannot be thankful or respect you enough for coming back again. All hail you, Lord Chris. So yeah, this movie had a lot of good stuff, but I do have one gripe against this movie. This doesn't change my rating of it at all, but it is a noticeable flaw. Even though there's a ton of story packed in here, this movie still felt like some scenes were missing or that scenes could have been expanded upon. For example, in one scene, Freeza gets beat up, then Gogeta appears, and then we cut to the middle of Broly lashing out at Whis. I feel like we're missing a scene. Are we missing a scene? Really, the camera just cuts to Whis and Broly with no explanation and no origin of how it happened. No scene of Broly looking at Whis, recognizing his power, and lashing out. It plays out exactly how I said it. Pacing is certainly inconsistent in this movie. For example, Broly, as much as I love him now, does lose control too quickly in this movie for me. I wish we saw more of that sympathetic yet tortured side of Broly during the fight against Vegeta and Goku, but then have that personality slowly decompose into the raging monster he's known for. There's also Chi-Li's obvious affection for Broly. She grows sympathy for Broly early on in the film, but it does feel like she repeats her goal of helping Broly more rather than having a small character arc or moment to reach that goal. She says she wants to save Broly, but I didn't think there was that much of a connection between Broly and Chi-Li to warrant this amount of devotion. And the fact that she repeats that specific line of saving Broly and hating Pericus makes up like 50 or 60% of her dialogue. Though then again, Broly barely had contact with anyone, so maybe it's warranted for him, but I don't think the same should be said for her. The movie has a lot of scenes like this, scenes where I hope there would be a little more to them. An expansion or explanation would have gone a long way. I feel like there's a director's cut of this movie that has more footage that takes care of any possible pacing issue for me, and we just got the theater cut. But again, I don't mind this too much. This is a Dragon Ball movie. They were never known for their deep, complex stories, new ones included. This movie feels like a mix of Dragon Ball movies, old and new. A refreshing tale in the franchise, but still has a satisfying, though kind of predictable climax. The last thing I want to talk about is the soundtrack. Don't worry, it's not a negative. My recommendation, get it. Especially the Broly vs. Gogeta song. That song was tight! Like my jeans in college. And that was honestly everything I could think about to talk about. I'm still cooling down from the hype. Literally, this script was made an hour and 40 after I got out of the theater. But yeah, this movie was very pleasing. I had a great time, and if you're a Dragon Ball fan, go check it out. That's all I can say. That was today's episode, so I will see you legends next time. Take care.